And we began where we should have begun, which is with westward expansion and the seizure of native lands by the railroad barons and the gold speculators and timber speculators, backed, of course, by the U.S. military. And the egregious campaign of genocide that we carried out against native peoples, 95% of whom were killed by the beginning of by the end of the 19th century. And that's where the whole sort of demented project began of imperialist expansion. The United States, unlike European countries, colonized itself first, and then went on to colonize the Philippines, Cuba, Central America, the Dominican Republic, of course we're still at it in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I think that one of the important issues was that, and one of the reasons why native cultures had to be destroyed is that they offer a competing ethic, another way of forming societies around communal structures. Those imported within native societies were detestable. I mean, Sitting Bull was constantly being perplexed at a society that can produce so much and share so little. And so we went to Pine Ridge, South Dakota, which has, statistically some of the worst poverty in the United States. The average life expectancy for a male in Pine Ridge is 48, which is the lowest in the Western Hemisphere outside 40. At any one time on Pine Ridge, 60% of the dwellings have neither electricity or water, and there's an estimated 80% alcoholism rate. And bringing Joe into the project was conscious in the sense that I wanted to make visible those who are invisible, then rendered invisible. That was a very important part of the book, because these are the people we never see. These are the communities that we don't look at, that aren't disseminated. Their voices and their plight don't never appear on the airwaves. We also worked out in Camden, New Jersey, which per capita is the poorest city in the United States, and not surprisingly, one of the most dangerous. This closed industrial wasteland where, most cities, you go and some of the city remains. In Camden, everything went, nothing's left. And you have these very effective internal colonies, it's primarily people of color, almost exclusively people of color. And one of the fascinating sort of vignettes of Camden is the most powerful figure in the city is a white multi-millionaire worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He has no elected office, he doesn't even live in Camden, he lives in an upscale suburb called Cherry Hill, George Norcross, and he controls everything in the city. Who gets elected, who doesn't, what contracts are. And it's just a kind of window into the power of corporate money and how it works, which is, one of the people we interviewed was a Norcross opponent, calls it a pimp of poverty. But that's what they are. They make fortunes out of poverty. And he was wired in an investigation which never went anywhere for intimidation, fraud. 90 minutes of the tapes were released, but it's a fascinating 90 minutes, some of which I quote in the book, because it shows how power works on the inside and how all the political class, he owns the political class. And he's now made an alliance with the Republican governor of New Jersey, Chris Christie, which means that there's no way out. I mean, we're watching a steady assault against teacher unions, a destruction of public education itself, as they are turned over to charter schools, which of course are run by hedge funds. And anytime hedge fund managers take a fervent interest in the education of the poor, it's not because they want to teach them to read and write. It's because they know the federal government spends about $600 billion a year on education, and they want it, and they're going to get it. We then went into southern West Virginia, the Appalachian Mountains, where the coal companies, and this is probably Muir and tar sands exploitation, are just destroying the mountain. One of the oldest mountain ranges on Earth. you can't get a sense of the devastation until you fly over it, as we did. Hundreds of thousands of acres. These are the lungs of the eastern seaboard. Many of the headwaters of the eastern seaboard comes out of there, and they're being decimated because coal companies don't want to dig down for the coal. They want to blast the top 400 feet off of the mountains, expose the coal seams. They are using some of the largest land equipment on Earth, 25-story drag lines, these gigantic bulldozers. Actually push all the topsoil and trees over the edge and light it on fire. So when you fly over the Appalachians, you watch man-made fires where the forests are burning. It's collective suicide. And those who live in these environments are poisoned. The air is poisoned, the water is poisoned. We're in villages where everybody has had their bulb out of the blue. You go into the elementary schools, and in the nurse's office, there are just rows of little inhalers for the children. Cancer is an epidemic. It is quite, the whole point of the book was not to get into a rhetorical debate about market capitalism, but to show you what unfettered, unregulated capitalism looks, feels, tastes, smells like, and what it does to human beings and what it does to communities. Because when you walk inside these sacrifice zones, and we call them sacrifice zones because they went first, and we go next. Why are the Appalachians, southern West Virginia being destroyed? It's so people in New York City and Chicago keep the lights on in office towers all night long and use car lots. But corporations know only one word, and it's more. And when they finish there, they will turn on the rest of us. There are no impediments left against this exploitation, which is why, of course, the fossil fuel industry is allowed to determine our relationship with the ecosystem and significantly the future of our children, what future they have. It's a kind of collective insanity. Ronald writes, I think, written about this quite well in A Short History of Progress. It's not that civilizations haven't done this in the past, from Easter Island to the Mayans. It's just that this time when we go down, the whole planet's going to go down with us. That's the consequences of where we are. We finally looked at the produce fields in the United States, undocumented workers, because that is a perfect employee of the corporate state. They have no rights, no benefits, no legal protection. When they don't work and they gather in parking lots hoping for work every morning at 4 in the morning, but if they don't get enough work, the $50 a week that they pay to the landlords, and we were working out of Omocrae, Florida, where you have 3 white families that control the trailer parks and fix the price. And they will rent these trailers, which have been condemned long ago, for $2,000 a month. Pack 20 workers in there, mattresses all over the floors, holes in the floorboards, rats, roaches, the usual. And when they can't pay it, they're out. They sleep under mango trees, they sleep out in the woods. And not surprisingly, you periodically uncover slavery, and that's not rhetorical, it's slavery. People held against their will, not paid, behind barbed wire. In some cases, one of the people we interviewed, they were chained to a truck at night with other workers, beaten. And they're told that if they go to authorities and complain, their families in Mexico, Honduras, and Guatemala will be threatened. That is the kind of trajectory of what unchecked, unfettered, unregulated corporate capitalism will do. And we painted visually. It was a very painful book to write, to deal with this kind of human suffering.